What's up, everybody? It's the Poppin' Tea Podcast, sitting here with your host, Poppin' Tea. As usual, Poppin' Tea. Pop, what you got for us today, man?
So, the tea for today on this very sad day is that the Baltimore Ravens will likely be losing their defensive mastermind coach, Mike McDonald, who led the Triple Crown best defense in the NFL. He interviewed with the Washington Commanders today, and the Seattle Seahawks are reportedly interested in as well. If we do end up losing him, I just want to give the man his flowers. It was a great season for him, even through the playoffs, and the Ravens are certainly going to miss that man.
Definitely. He was a key piece of that defense for the last 2 years. It's weird to call a coach a key piece, even though he doesn't suit up. But just the way he was able to disguise coverages, man zone, send a blitz at you. He's a hell of a coach. Definitely will miss him if he does end up leaving. Um, I would hate to lose a guy like that. Same with PQ. Um, just stepped it up this year. Second year broke on. Um, but yeah, we'll move on from the tea from today. Pop, just let me get your initial thoughts from the game.
I mean, we failed. That's as simple as it is. This was the season to go and get that ring for Lamar, for the city of Baltimore, for that whole team, and we failed. We got away from our identity against the Chiefs. Um, and it just wasn't enough. Like if you had told me a couple days ago that the Chiefs were only going to put up 17 points and then they weren't going to score in the second half, I would have told you, "Oh, so the Ravens blew them out." But
100%.
the offense wasn't there and it's just super disappointing, especially after the season that we had putting up 30 points on almost every team. Like it's just so sad to see us falter in that way and in that important moment. How
Yeah.
how are your thoughts on yesterday?
I feel the same as you, man. Obviously, like the whole city feels. I'm disappointed. Um, that was just a matchup that just I don't think could ask for a better matchup. Based on what the Ravens like to do offensively. Chiefs were a bottom five team against the run. You know, their run defense, their secondary was top five. And the game plan I thought would have reflected that yesterday. But it didn't. And that's actually our next talking point. You had hinted on it. Just getting away from the game plan. What did you see? What do you think happened? Like, just talk to me because I really don't understand it.
I mean, I don't know how anyone could understand it. The Ravens have had an identity since Lamar Jackson got to Baltimore of running the football. We were the number one rushing offense this year. We had the most amount of carries in the entire league.
Yeah,
And after what the Bills were able to do last week with 182 yards on the ground against the Chiefs, you'd think Monken would look at that and be like, all right, let's run the football all day long. Let's get in jumbo. Let's get in 12 personnel. Let's run the football and keep the keep the ball away from Mahomes. But I mean, the script was flipped yesterday. I was looking at the time of possession near the end of the first half, and it was completely skewed. They out Ravensed the Ravens yesterday. And I don't
yeah,
know if to me it seems like it was panic. I don't know why this coaching staff panics in these moments like this because any fan of football, any Ravens fan, any fan of the entire league can tell you that the Ravens are a running team. And for our running backs to come out there and have six carries on the entire day, three carries per back, I mean that's unacceptable. Against
yeah,
against the Chiefs defense, like you noted, that isn't particularly great against the run. And the game plan should have reflected that. And it didn't. And
100%.
it's just super disappointing to see that. I mean, Zay Flowers had two carries on the day. That's one away from our backs. Like a wide receiver is getting two
Yeah,
carries and Gus is getting three, Justice is getting three. That's unacceptable. I don't.
Just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense.
It,
I've been scratching my head all day trying to figure this out. Because I just knew we were going to have to get on here and talk about it, and I just can't figure it out. Um, we were down 10 points. The game
yes,
wasn't over. It was never out of reach.
yeah, it was for Lamar to be dropping back 80 or 82% of the snaps. I would have believed that we were down 24 points, like, because that's the only reasonable explanation for why you would have Lamar Jackson dropping back that many times.
Yeah,
He's not. I love Lamar Jackson. I will go to battle for him any single day of the week, but it's not the offense that is a drop back passing game. Tom Brady, Mahomes, like you're not gonna have him throwing 40 times. That's just never gonna work out. And anyone can see that. And for us to come out and play that game, it's a colossal failure. And I feel like there needs to be consequences for that because I mean we win that game if if
yeah,
if it isn't called that way. And it's really upsetting. But
it is.
to me in my head, I was questioning, Gus and Justice, I love them. I think they're great backs. But would the Ravens be more willing to use their back if they had not even a premier back, but like just someone that's a workhorse that you feel comfortable giving 15 carries a game? Like, is there a hesitancy to use those backs in the big moments because they're not per se like elite star runners in this league? I don't know if that has something to do with it. Like if you had, for example, a Kyron Williams, a Kenneth Walker, Javonte Williams, someone that you
Mhm.
feel comfortable giving all those carries, does the game plan change? Is it just because you're worried about getting the other more star players, your Zay Flowers, your Mark Andrews? Are you more worried about getting them involved, and that's why you're turning away from the run game? It doesn't make sense to me. It's definitely going to be interesting to see how they do address that running back position because it didn't even feel like they trusted them yesterday. And
Not
it
at all.
wasn't it wasn't like they were getting stuffed at the line of scrimmage all day long. I mean, it felt like every time Gus got the rock, it was going for like 6 yards. And like not that it happened very often. He only got three
Yeah,
Gus carries, but it's mind-boggling to me.
it is.
I could talk about it forever, but
I really could. Just to kind of brush over what you said. I was wondering that same thing. Like, if we had a premier back, like, would we focus on him more? Like, if we had Derrick Henry in the backfield, would we stop shying away from the run in the big moments? Because it's like as an offense, you're only down 10 points, and I understand you didn't get the ball coming out of halftime. Um, but it's like you've trusted your defense all year. Defense has shown you can trust them all year. Why did we stop trusting the defense? To me, that's how I see it. Like offensively, like we stopped trusting the defense because for some reason Todd felt like he had to score and he had to score now. We had to run the hurry up offense. We had to go no auto. We had to put four wide receivers on the field. We had to throw the ball. We had to drop back every play. Because did he not trust the defense to get a stop? Like I don't get it. Like did he think he had to score super fast because he didn't want to put the defense backs in the balls back in Pat's hands? Like the time of possession you said earlier, it was 21-9 at
ugh,
half.
it's terrible.
You can't beat Pat Mahomes like that. You
No.
have to run the ball. You have to tire out the defense of the Chiefs and keep him off the field. So it's like when you're going three and out every drive because you're passing the ball every play, what do you expect from the defense eventually? And I'll use that to go on to our next point. Um, the defense's second half resurgence. That the first drive, they marched down the field. Back shoulder throw to Kelsey. Kelsey's having our way with our defense. I can't lie to you.
He was.
Um, he had 10 receptions. I think he had 11 receptions
He had 11.
on 11 attempts. Um, like anytime he threw the ball his way, it was a completion. But in the second half, the defense allowed 0 points. They allowed 5 first downs and only allowed 3.3 yards per attempt. What did you see from the defense in the second half that was different in the first? Who stepped up? Did you see any adjustments, anything like that? What did you see from the defense in the second half?
I think that the defensive line definitely turned up the pressure a little bit. Even if we didn't get home, I think we got home twice, maybe. I know Justin had that play where he got in
Yeah,
pretty much
2 sacks.
pretty much immediately. And I don't think he actually got credited with that sack because Mahomes kind of rolled out of it, but it was enough to get the guys to come in and clean that up. But I definitely thought that they turned up the pressure a little bit and the tackling as well. Uh, there was a lot of the Chiefs' game plan to me was intermediate and short passes. The Ravens weren't going to give up any of that deep stuff, and they were able to have a lot of yak after, especially Rashee Rice just breaking tackles early. But once they maybe they got the jitters out, maybe they went into the locker room, realized that they need to do a better job of tackling. They clamped down and any of those short passes they were getting stopped pretty much immediately.
Yeah,
And I mean everything just came together in that second half, and the Ravens they gave the offense so many opportunities, and it wasn't enough at the end of the day. What do you
yeah.
think were the main adjustments that the defense was able to make?
Um, I I don't want to necessarily say adjustments, but two big things I noticed were just the play from Patrick Queen and Kyle Hamilton in the second half. I think they both kind of flipped the switch and turned it on. And I
Kyle
thought they
was
brought a
all
lot
over the
of
place.
everywhere. They brought a lot of juice to the defense. And I think that helped the defense a lot in the second half. Just the play from those two guys. But yeah, that defense in that second half, it was just the defense we had seen all year. So it didn't feel wrong. Like to me, the first half defense felt wrong. Like it's like, yo, who is this? Like, who are these guys? But like in the second half, like that's what we were used to all year in Baltimore. And that's a big shout out to Mac. Um, for going in there in the second half and making the adjustments, and for the guys, the young guys on the team especially, to step up and bring the juice. Kyle Hamilton had 11 total tackles yesterday, 9 solo and a QB hit.
Oof.
PQ had 8 tackles, 7 solos and a QB hit. Matt BK had 6 tackles, 2 solos, half a sack, and a QB hit. And then Brandon Stevens had 9 total tackles and 6 solo. Like those are all young guys. They definitely turned it up. And Roquan is still a young guy. I know he's been in the league in a while, but he's only 26. He had 16 total tackles, 5 solo tackles, and a QB hit. Um, so those dudes came to play. And everybody should be back on the team except for PQ probably next year. Um, so I'm very glad and very happy to be able to run it back with those guys next year. But a guy we may not be able to run it back with is McDonald. McDonald, we talked to it earlier. What do you think of what happened with him? Do you think he'll stay? Do you think he might be elevated to a higher position within the staff? You think he'll go somewhere else and get a head coaching job? Just what are you seeing or expecting this all season?
I mean, to me, if I had to put money on it, Mike McDonald and Ben Johnson are going to be coaching the Commanders and the Seahawks. I don't know who's going to be where, but after the season that Mike McDonald just had, I would be sprinting to the phone trying to get that man to enter my building
So
because like we've highlighted before, a lot of these guys turned into stars this year. And for your DC to obviously make the stars look good, but to have everyone feel like they're a premium player at their position, that's what every team wants. Because think
yeah,
about the Seahawks, how much talent. you can look at on that defense. Tariq Woolen, Witherspoon, Jamal Adams, Boye Mafe, Jordan Brooks. Like, that is a talented defense, a lot of high round draft picks, but they don't play like a cohesive unit. They don't play up to their ability.
A very
I,
young unit also.
yeah, I'm sure Seahawks fans are begging to get that man in the building because I would assume that the second that he would get in there, it would be night and day different. And this is after Pete Carroll, who's a defensive guy, but Mike has shown that he is a different breed. I would love to have him back. And it really scares me to not have him back because I've only, I mean, the last couple of years it's been Wink and Mike, but it's night and day. And he, in my opinion, is the best young defensive mind in the league.
100%.
And it's certainly going to be interesting to me how the Ravens fill that hole because I'm assuming he's gonna be head coach somewhere. I think it would be
Yeah.
stupid to let the Ravens hold on to him.
Yeah, I agree with that. The two jobs left, like you had mentioned earlier, are Washington and Seattle. Um, I think Ben Johnson will end up in Washington, and I think Mac will end up in Seattle. And I think Mac is going to take PQ with him, honestly. Um, I think Seattle is a team that could use another linebacker. I think it might finally be time to move on for Bobby. I think it would be good for them to invest in a young guy like PQ and to pair him with Jordan Brooks.
That'd
That
be
would make a
scary.
hell of a linebacker core. Probably be the fastest linebacking core in the league. Those two young guys together. Um, with Matt calling the defense, that would be disgusting.
It would.
Two lockdown corners, Jamal finally healthy in the back. And then they got Leonard Williams also, right? In the trade with the Giants. So I think Mac with that defense would be insane. Like you said, I think it would be foolish to let the Ravens hold on to Mac for the rest of the league. But I've been praying every night for it. We've touched on Mac's future. We know Todd isn't going anywhere. Um, but the last coach I kind of want to touch on is Harbaugh. I think it might be time to start asking those questions. Just to pull up some stats, the Ravens are 0-31 under Harbaugh when they run the ball less than 20 times. And
Wild.
for a team whose identity is the run game, like that's kind of a crazy. Like it just makes sense. 0-31 when you run the ball less than 20 times. And another stat, Harbs was 9-13 in the playoffs his first 5 years. Since then, he's 3-9 in his last 11 years. Going back these last couple of years, since 2013, he's missed the playoff 5 times. He's lost in the divisional 3 times. One of those times, we were the 1 seed 2019, obviously, so we didn't win a game in the playoffs. He's lost in the wild card twice. Um, when he's reached the conference championship once. Um, he's a great coach. He's been a great coach for a long time, but the NFL is changing, the league is changing. Do you think it's time for the Ravens to make a change at the head coaching position?
It's really tough for me to say because I love John Harbaugh. He is clearly one of the better leaders in the
100%.
National Football League. The way that those guys every single year play hard for him is it's remarkable. It's up there with guys like Mike Tomlin, like Andy Reid, like Dan
Pete
Campbell.
Carroll,
Yeah, those guys play hard for him. But you can blame Todd Monken for yesterday, and I personally think that that was the biggest mistake yesterday was Todd. But it felt eerily similar to the last 3 or 4 years in the playoffs where we panic and we change
hmm
our identity when there's no need to. And those were Greg Roman teams. And there's one constant there, and it's John Harbaugh. And I know John's not calling the plays, but You're the leader of the team. You're the one who ultimately makes the decisions, and you can't let that fly. Like, you should be going into halftime and saying, "Why aren't my running backs getting the ball?"
Yeah,
Because this Chiefs defense can't handle that. And that's the constant to me. It feels like the same game that I've been watching the last 4 years. It's
yeah,
super upsetting to me. And I don't know. I definitely don't think he's gonna get fired. Not after that season, certainly. But I don't know how much you can really keep running the same game over and over again because
yeah,
no one's getting any younger. Lamar, it shocks me that he's 27 years old. Like, he's
yeah,
not getting any younger. Some of the stars on the team aren't getting any younger, and it can't be these phenomenal regular seasons and then complete panic when it matters. And that was
yeah,
the Ravens game to win yesterday. And to see it go that way, you gotta start looking at John and saying how much further can you take us?
yeah. It's like, can he get over the hump? It's like as Ravens fans, we love John to death. But it's like we still riding on that 2012 Super Bowl. I think a lot of fans forget that John almost got let go a couple years ago. Before Lamar took over that 2018 season and got us to the playoffs, John was on the hot seat. John was like most likely going to be fired, and we were going to move on. But Lamar came in 2018, saved that season. Then in 2019, 14-2, John won Coach of the Year and secured his job for a couple more years. Um, but like you said, it's just like there's one constant. Um, and it's like, yo, when are we gonna kind of fix something? The Ravens have been abysmal in the playoffs as of recent when it comes to turnover margin. 2018 against the Chargers, we were -2. 2019 against the Titans, we were -3. Last year against the, sorry, I'm blanking. Um, Against the Bengals, we were -1. Against KC, we were -3. And I believe against Buffalo, we were -1. In the 20, what was that, 2020 divisional, I think, when we went to Buffalo.
Yeah.
Um, we had the pick six in the red zone against Buffalo, the Tyler Huntley fumble in the red zone against the Bengals, and then we had the Zay Flowers turnover in the red zone yesterday. And all three of those plays just completely changed the game. Um, Lamar to pick six. If there's no pick six, we might tie the game up 10-10. Um, the Huntley fumble, Hubbard, what was it? Was it Hubbard that took it back for
Yeah,
99 yards?
it was Hubbard.
Hubbard took it back 99 yards, and then Zay, like that, would have tied the game up. Um, it was just like I don't know what it is when it comes to us playoffs and turnovers, and just getting away from our identity come playoffs. But I think that's something that the EDC needs to take a good look at this offseason. We got to figure it out. I'm just tired of doing this, like you said, the great regular seasons, and then getting to the playoffs and it meaning nothing. But the season's over. It's done with. Let's look to the off season a little bit. Is there any names off the top of your head that you're like, we got to go get this guy? I know we're tight against the cap. I think we have around 12 to 15 million, but regardless of cap, is there anybody off the top of your head that's just like, yo, like we need this guy on our team next year?
I mean, it's just a matter of BK to me. I don't think that after the season that we just had that I'm really itching to go sign any huge free agents. I mean, there's a couple guys that come to mind. There's a couple great running backs. Like we said earlier, if we get a star to elite running back, maybe that changes things. But and there's some good ones out there. But if I'm spending money, it's on Justin Madubuike because a lot of those guys get highlighted before Justin. Roquan, Pat Queen, Kyle Hamilton, Marlowe because he's got all that money. But Justin was the best pass rushing interior defensive tackle this year. in terms of stats at least, and you got to get pressure with four. Have to get pressure with four.
100%.
And so I think it would be a shame and a mistake to let homegrown talent like that, who has only ascended every single year that he's played, walk out the door and play for someone else. I would be distraught if Justin Madubuike was on a different team next season.
Yeah,
How about you?
100%.
Who do you want?
Um, Obviously, I agree with you. Can't let Beaks leave out the door. One guy I feel like we gotta go get. I feel like we gotta go get Mike Evans. I feel like we truly need another weapon. And I feel like we keep saying this every year. But we need a bona fide guy. We need a guy that can play next to Zay and take pressure off of Zay. Well, Mark may not necessarily be on the field. I know Mark Andrews is that number one target, but we got to find a way to win on the outsides. There's a lot of plays
Such a good
yesterday
point.
where it was boxed, complete shutdown from the Chiefs secondary, and Lamar just had nowhere to go with the ball. I need a guy that he can trust. Even in those moments where he's not open, he can just throw it up and pray to God he goes and gets it. He's a 6'5", big body wide receiver. Has never had less than 1,000 yards in a season in his career. He's been playing 10, 11 years. He'll be an unrestricted free agent this year. So I think that's a guy that we should be looking in to go get, and I think he could make a big difference for our offense.
To touch
Um,
to touch on yesterday, it felt like changing the game plan as well, even though I don't think we should have been passing as much. That offense, those weapons, the two good tight ends, just the receivers themselves, they're built to attack the middle of the field. They're all pretty slender guys, and that's where Lamar seems to like to target. That's where he's had the most success in his career, attacking the middle of the field. And yesterday, there were so many shots outside the numbers. And whether it was too far or the receiver just weren't able to come down with it, it shows me that a guy like Mike Evans can be that guy where if Zay's not getting open out the slot, if the tight ends are getting covered up, like if we're gonna have to take those outside shots, I want someone who's gonna be able to come down with it. And yesterday it was clear that we just weren't able to make those connections. So definitely a
yeah.
really good call with Mike Evans there.
Also looking forward. We won't get too deep into it. But your first round, we have the 30th pick. You don't have to name a player by name, but what is the position you're taking with that first round pick?
You know, it's tough. This is a great tackle class, and we saw that our tackles are not getting any younger this year. They
Mhm.
they had they had good games, but there was definitely some moments where it's clear that something's got to change. I would not be opposed to a tackle and an edge rusher too. I know a lot of Ravens fans are excited for what Ojabo can do. A
Mhm.
guy that was predicted to be going inside the top 15 that year that he got drafted. I think that was 2 years ago. I'm not sure that he's going to be able to turn it on after those injuries that he's sustained throughout his career, both in college and the NFL. So I'm never opposed, like I said with Justin, never opposed to adding someone on the defensive line to get pressure with four because even yesterday we weren't getting a ton of pressure with four, and it wasn't even the full strength Chiefs O line. So those are where I'm looking. I think you could look at corner too, just because you're losing Ronald Darby, you're losing Rocky Sin and Brandon
Also
Stevens.
losing Millet also.
Yeah, and Brandon Stevens is getting close to the end of his contract as well. So I wouldn't be opposed to any of those positions really.
Yeah, I
Who
agree with you.
who would you want, or what position would you want?
I think same boat as you. I think the main two places I'm looking are tackle and corner. Um, specifically left tackle. I love Stanley and Marlowe to death. But we're paying those guys a lot of money. Um, and they haven't necessarily, I think, lived up to the amount of money that we're paying them. And Lamar's contract years are going to start hitting soon. Um, that is his cap hit is going to keep continuing to rise. We're going to have to pay Kyle eventually. We're going to have to pay Zay eventually. Obviously, this is years down the road, but Linderbaum also. But like it's going to be a real conversation. And it's hard to win when you're paying a lot of guys. A lot of guys have to be on rookie contracts in the NFL to win. So left tackle and corner. And we might just have to move on from two cornerstone pieces of our team to get younger and to save money. Because we're really working against the cap this year. And we got to try to find a way to compete. We got to be able to compete with the best. And I'll use that to segue to our next point. Patrick Mahomes, is he the greatest?
I feel like it's pretty hard to say otherwise. He might not have the numbers that Brady has yet, but through his 6 years as a starter, for him to have the accolades that he has, and it just seems like when it matters and when it's playoff time, he gets better. Some of the plays that he was making yesterday against the Ravens defense, it was unbelievable. Just the way he was able to evade pressure, the way I mean that last play of the game, Marquez Valdez Scantling working on Arthur Millette, that was a layup. There was
It was like
no
easy for him.
it was 32 yards on a rope. Like he just dropped back.
It's easy
Game
for
over.
him.
Game over. And
There's
not even throwing to a premier wide receiver either. I mean that was just he's gonna be an issue for a long time. And it's frustrating as a Ravens fan when you feel like you have the second best, but you know you don't have the best because
yeah.
Mahomes is him. He is him.
It hurts my heart because it's like he should be a Chicago Bear. He should not be playing in the AFC right now. Like they
Yeah,
messed
it's
up.
true.
They drafted Mitch and let Pat fall to 10 to the Chiefs, and it's just like, man, like he should be terrorizing me. Like, but I gotta live with it. I gotta live with others' mistakes. But like you said, it's hard to argue he's not. Um, anytime he's not supposed to win, he finds a way to win. All season, all year, it was all the conversation was this is the year to finally beat Mahomes. His wide receivers can't catch, they aren't connecting. There's no Tyreek Hill. Bieniemy's gone, yada yada yada. And he found a way. He's on the road for the first time in his career. Like he started off the playoffs. He beat the wide receiver that he said he couldn't succeed without in the first round. Then he went to Buffalo on his first career playoff game on the road. That's not the
Rivalry.
Super Bowl. Yeah, the rivalry, and went and got that game done. And then came and played statistically one of the best teams we've seen in the last 20 years at their crib and got it done somehow. The year before, we basically watched Pat Mahomes' ankle fall off his leg. They put it back on. The man could barely walk. He could barely run. He could barely jog. He still won the Super Bowl somehow. Um, so it's just like time and time again. It's just like he continues to win when he's not supposed to. And talking about Pat, obviously he's back in another Super Bowl. What are you looking for this? Well, not this Sunday, but Sunday after. Who are you thinking comes out with the win?
I mean, it's hard to say anyone else besides the Chiefs. It certainly seems like destiny at this point.
Yeah.
Um, not even not even because of the script, not even because of Taylor Swift. Like you just
I
said it.
saw that they made
He-
$331 million off of her this year. That's how much
It's
revenue she
that's
generated.
insane.
But go
No,
ahead, back what you were talking about.
I mean, you just said it. He finds a way to win, and that 49ers team is good. That roster is loaded, but Is it gonna be anyone else besides Patrick Mahomes? I would love it to be. I would love it to be the 49ers. But I gotta go with the Chiefs. I think they get it done.
Yeah,
Probably I'll say 28-24 Chiefs.
I like that. Because it's like you said, how can you not pick Mahomes at this point? Um, he when he played the 49ers the first time in the Super Bowl, he wasn't supposed to win that. But him and Tyreek hit that jet chip wasp, I think the play was, and took it inside and took it to the sideline, 30 yards down the field, hit that and won the game. So yeah, I think I gotta go with you. It hurts to say it, but I think Mahomes gets what would this be? Ring number three?
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
unfair,
ring
man. I
it's
want it so
insane.
bad.
All I want is one. I
Yeah.
just want one. But I guess shout out to Kansas City, man. They took a guy from a Big 12 school. They invested in him. He invested in himself. They put weapons around him. They put a great coaching staff around him, and they just let him be him. You know what I'm saying? They let him do what he was good at, what he's talented at, what he excels in. And I just wish a lot of other teams would do that. And I wish the Ravens would have been quicker to do that with Lamar. I think we wasted a couple. I think we wasted some crucial years on his rookie deal. With just great room and just and failing to put the weapons around him. Um, but shout out to Kansas City and their organization, their GM, their head coach, their owner for doing what they need to do to surround Pat with talent. We're running out of time here on the Zoom, but we wanted to touch on what the podcast looked like now that the season's over.
Yeah, you're not
Um,
getting rid of us yet. Just because we're
yeah,
the
not
Raven
yet.
season is done, that does not mean
We're
we're done. Just
still
getting
fans of
started.
football. Hell yeah. So we're looking, to do mock drafts. We're looking to touch on more of the 31 other teams now that the Ravens season's over. Don't get me wrong, we still do a lot of Ravens content, but we want to broaden our horizons. We're looking to get a lot of guests on this all season. A lot of college guys going pro and a lot of guys already in the pros. And we're just looking to expand the brand. Just looking to get content out, looking to stay consistent. Um, and do a lot of free agency, off season guessing, mock guys to teams we think they should go. Like off the top of my head, I think Derrick Henry and the Chiefs. I mean, not the Chiefs, the Chargers offense. With Jim Harbaugh head coach and Justin Herbert at quarterback, I think that would be a dynamic duo. So those are things we're gonna touch on. We'll elaborate on. Am I missing anything, Pop, or is that it?
No, I just be on the lookout because we're gonna be bringing a lot of stuff to you this off season. Trying to keep your football fix coming to you, and we hope you stick around for the ride because we're having fun with it, and we hope you're having fun with it too.
Yeah. Sorry it took a little while to get content out to y'all this week. Just was depressed after Sunday. I just needed the data to kind of sit and soak in my emotions. But yeah, I think that's it from this episode. You can wrap it up.
Yep.
Um,
On to next week.
yes, sir.